The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Bob Winchester with Steel Plus Network. I'd like to take a moment and just welcome you all to our webinar this morning. This is an exciting event for us because it's the first time we'll have a combination call for both Steel Plus Network as well as the Steel Erectors Association. So thank you guys all for getting on the call this morning. If you don't know who I am, I'm the Director of Operations for Steel Plus. I'm out of Kansas City, Missouri, and I've been in the steel business for going on 15 years now. But learning something new every day, and I hope to learn something new today. We've also got on the line some gentlemen from Praxair, and I'll introduce those guys here in a second. But just so we're clear on why we're getting on the call this morning, we wanted to address the acetylene shortage that we believe is coming up in North America. This was brought to our attention by Praxair due to an explosion at a calcium carbide plant later in March. But I'll let Dave from Praxair get into that here in a second. But bottom line is, this affects us in our industry in two different ways. Obviously, for any of you that use acetylene, this is going to impact, there probably will be some rationing if you haven't already seen that, as well as a possible price increase. So we think that's important for you guys to know, as well as offering a solution for you so that you're not faced with that. And the second thing is it could possibly impact mill production. Calcium carbide is actually used in the production of steel. So I can tell you that we reached out to our friends over at the mill. They're looking into that for us. I don't have any hard evidence yet as to what that's going to do, but I will commit to you guys that we'll share that with you as we find out. I found it interesting this morning that they did have to dig a little bit to find out, so we'll see what they say, and I'll make sure that we get that back to you guys. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started here. I want to let you guys know that this is going to be recorded. We believe it's important for everyone, not only the people that are attending, but for the people that couldn't attend. We want to make this available to them. We think it's important information. So we're going to record this. So just be aware, if you do have a question, you ask a question, that it will be recorded, and just keep it clean if you don't mind. And if you do want to ask a question, all you have to do, there's a button there that says raise your hand. Raise your hand, and I'll make sure to address you, and we'll get that question out on the table as well. At the end of the session, we'll have a short Q&A for everybody. I'm going to tell you, we're going to try to keep this short and sweet. We're going to try to keep it under 20 minutes, so we keep it really to the point. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put your raise your hand electronically, and we'll make sure to address that. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the two gentlemen from Praxair. First is David Lesway. He's the National Accounts Manager, and he's based out of Ontario. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
The second gentleman's name is Raymond Davis. Raymond is the president of a company that actually produces the product that Dave's going to introduce later in the webinar called Starflame C. And I'd like to welcome you, Raymond, as well.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now, Raymond has been in the steel industry for many years, and he understands gases, steels. He's kind of the expert. So Raymond's going to kind of stand in the background and field any questions that you guys have or any technical issues. But I'm going to let Dave kind of run with the call. And Dave, feel free to get started.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Bob. Welcome, everybody. Just want to say that we're here today to talk about an industry issue, not necessarily just a Praxair issue, that's going to affect the supply of acetylene and quite possibly steel in the next few months. For those of you who don't know, Bob mentioned that Carbide Industries, who's the main manufacturer of calcium carbide in North America, they recently had an explosion and fires that was rather severe at their plant. And it shut down production, and nobody seems to know when they're going to be back online. It could be months, it could be years. And as a result of that, there's going to be a national shortage of acetylene because calcium carbide is one of the main components. It's the main component of acetylene production. acetylene plants that take the calcium carbide and we convert it to acetylene. We have inventories in place. We're trying to supplement those inventories by bringing product in from Brazil, South America, and even Europe. So when Bob mentioned earlier about price increases, that's the reason that there will be increases, because we're bringing product from a farther distance, and of course there's going to be a higher cost associated with it. And so we're looking at this taking place across North America. It's not just going to be isolated in one regional market. But what we have done recently as well is we've developed a gas, an alternate fuel gas, in conjunction with Raven's company called Starflame C that we have been trying to promote in the market to replace acetylene for a variety of reasons. So Bob, if you could just go to the next slide. Okay, we've brought in Starflame C into the market. It's going to reduce gas costs for you, fewer cylinders. It's a safer, cleaner product. From a performance perspective, it's going to increase your cutting speeds by 15 to 50%, depending if you're in a manual application or in an automated application. There's less slag, less weld back. From a cost perspective, it's more economical to use. 100-pound cylinder will outlast 3 to 4 acetylene cylinders. So you just right away you can see where the savings are going to be there. From a safety perspective, it burns clean. You've got no soot, no backfire. It's stable, meaning if it's bumped or dropped from any elevation, it's safe. It's not going to explode on you, and it's non-toxic. Available, we've got it at almost all of the Praxair locations. We have 16 fill plants in North America that are currently under full production, producing. Okay. Before we brought the product to the market, we did a lot of R&D at our lab in New York, and we did a lot of testing. We brought some independent customers in, and also independent equipment suppliers to run the gas through their equipment. We brought in customers, we put the product in their hand and got their feedback, their evaluation. Of course, we recorded everything, and these are some of the results that we've come up with. 10% faster than propylene, up to 50% faster than acetylene. While I'm talking about propylene here, for those of you who are using propylene, you may not be using acetylene. Propylene is produced in limited supply as well, and if acetylene isn't available, there's going to be a strain on propylene as well, as opposed to Starflame C, which is readily available everywhere. The results found that the Starflame C was more user-friendly, torch tip to work distance, very easy to use, operator-friendly, 20% lower costs on propylene, 50% on acetylene, and of course we've already talked about the safety factor, lower potential for torch backfire, which is quite common in a lot of shops where you may have some operators who aren't necessarily trained on using all of the equipment properly. Okay, next slide, please.
Hey, Dave, a quick question for you. This is Bob.
Sure.
I'm just curious. So, what kind of transition would somebody be looking at? And you might cover this later if they were to switch over to Starflame C from either propylene or acetylene.
From an equipment perspective?
Well, from overall costs, how long and how hard would it be to switch over to something like this?
Okay, if we go to the next slide, we will likely come up with that. Sorry, there'll be a slide after, but I just want to go through the applications first. The best where it shines the most is on cutting, gouging, piercing. Anybody that's doing cutting in the field, in the shop, any gouging, you can use gouging tips with it. If you're piercing holes on site, the steel erectors, everybody knows that whenever the beams come from the shop, they're not always lined up. The holes aren't always lined up the way they should be. So they seem to transfer in transportation. It can be used for heat treating, flame hardening, soldering, and it's also can be used as a forklift fuel and in some glass bead making. So its real strengths are in cutting, gouging, piercing, heavy industrial application. Okay, next slide, please. Availability in sizes, anybody with traditional acetylene cylinders, we can match a similar size cylinder up with what you have already in place. I know some people have cylinder carts, you have racks in your truck, etc. But we have designed the cylinders. We've looked at what's standard in the industry so that you don't have any major modifications to make. And of course, it's also available in bulk. If you have a bulk tank at your shop, we can bring the product in and transfer it into your existing bulk tank. So you wouldn't need to go out and change any tanks, purge, clean, etc. It will go right in, and you'll be able to continue on without even knowing that there was a transition. Okay, next slide. Equipment recommendations. This comes under what's it going to cost me to switch to a Starflame C if I'm using acetylene or propane or propylene or even natural gas right now. Regulator, no need to change out any regulators that you're using right now. Pressure rarely exceeds 15 psi. The fitting is a CGA, that's Compressed Gas Association, which is a standard fitting throughout the industry. It's a 510 fitting, meaning the existing regulator will just plug into a Starflame C tank. From a hose perspective, most acetylene outfits have R-grade hose, but it's not recommended for alternate fuel. And we recommend that the hose be changed to a type T. Now, how do I know if I have a grade R or grade T? The hose is labeled every 3 feet, and you will be able to see if it's R grade or T grade on it. Probably 90% of the hose that's sold in the market today is T grade hose, so I would be very surprised if you had R grade in your shop. But our people can come in, make that determination for you and with you, so that we don't have any issues going down the road. As far as your torch goes, you don't need to change your torch when you're converting. Most torches, all you need to do is change from a single tip, a one-piece tip for acetylene, to a two-piece tip. And of course, we can help you with that to recommend the correct tip for the thickness of material, the application, and make sure that you get the best performance. So just please go forward, Bob. As a convenience, if you're in your shop and you want to come back to this broadcast and determine what type of tip you would need, what we've done is put together the major manufacturers. We've got the tip sizes, the OEM part number, and of course our ProStar brand equivalent part number as well. So it makes it easier for you to order the correct tip when you want to make the conversion. Okay. And of course we've got Smith, Airco here. There are also tips here on correct flame adjustment, how to set up the torch, but our people would be more than happy to come in and work through that with your operators, do some training. We've done this recently, and we've uncovered some safety concerns with customers that they weren't even aware of, because part of the walkthrough would be to inspect your hose, your gauges, regulators, torch equipment, and of course, if you have a pipeline in your shop, we would certainly look at that as well. Okay. So, in summary, we look at Starflame C versus Acetylene, and we look at the advantages: reduced fuel cost up to 50%, increased travel speeds. It vaporizes completely, meaning there's almost no residual in the cylinder. Whenever you return an acetylene cylinder, it could have anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20% product in it. With the Starflame C, it's almost completely emptied whenever it goes back. It's under 3 or 4%. Burns at an extremely high flame temperature, very similar to acetylene, so you're not going to notice any longer wait on preheat time. Very similar. Less cylinders needed, so you've got less handling, storage, reduces your change-out time, less slag, weld back on your material. It burns clean. Anybody that's operated an acetylene torch, typically whenever you light it, you leave a black soot puddle on the material that gets on your clothes. It's in your shop, all over the place. It's in the air. Eliminates the torch backfire, so it's safer. And the explosive limits are narrower, not sensitive to shock, and non-toxic. So, more cost-effective, produces a superior cut. Any questions?
Dave, this is Bob again. Just to go back to my previous question, just so I understand, it seems almost too good to be true. So I'm curious, is it what kind of transition would it take for somebody, say a guy has a 15-man shop, how long do you think it would take to switch over to this kind of product from, say, acetylene or propylene?
Well, the first thing we would do is find out how many cylinders you have in service, and we would bring that number of cylinders over, of course, with some backup, and merely hook up the cylinders, do the safety inspection and the training for your people, so that they're ready to go almost instantaneously.
So as far as from a disruption standpoint, within a week, do you think they can make a transition like that?
Oh, absolutely. Most times within a couple of days from the time we receive the order. It would be a good idea to do a pre-visit first, just so that our people know what to expect. There could be something additional we need to bring along, and of course we'd like to do it right the first time. So if we do a pre-visit, we can assist with placing the order, be there whenever the cylinders are delivered, ensure that they're offloaded safely, they go in the appropriate storage area, and then transition them into your business. And coordinate a training with all of your staff as well, so that they're all familiar with it, they know the do's, the don'ts, and of course the learning curve is under 15 minutes.
Oh, wow. I'm curious, Raymond, you're the hands-on guy. What do you have anything to add to all that?
If you don't mind, what I would like to add, when you speak of availability, as he said, availability throughout the contiguous states for Starflame C via Praxair is that's an easy fix. When you get into the actual either cylinders and or bulk, because I don't know what who that's on the webinar today is actually a propylene user or fuel gas user versus an acetylene user. If it be that it's a propylene user and they already have their tips and their equipment and everything in place, as I think Dave would agree on, is the propylene pricing and the propylene availability can be an issue going forward. It's already been in the last few years without this demand, so we need to be careful about that and making sure that the potential Starflame users will be in position that if we need to, expediting tanks if you're on bulk, expediting cylinders if you're on cylinders is a very easy thing for us to do. We do this every day. On the acetylene side, I think that the equipment, having the proper training in place for these guys, it's just not really rocket science at the end of the day. If you have the average user of a torch, he's going to be very comfortable with taking that torch and adjusting that flame to a certain degree that gets him started. Now, the flame adjustment being very similar, but just a little bit of tweaking. And as Dave said, literally within a day of training, you're going to have 99% of your group or your users, your fitters, burners, whoever they may be, can get up to speed very quick. It is very user-friendly. So there's not, again, not a lot of rocket science in that flame adjustment. One thing that I will add on the regulators, let's keep in mind that the acetylene regulators that you have today typically work up to a certain level if you're going into a situation where you're going to be doing some heating or whatever. The difference in an acetylene regulator and a fuel gas regulator is primarily the orifices inside the regulators. The viscosity difference between the acetylene and the Starflame C kind of not forces, but we definitely recommend that you look at, as you're transitioning going forward, to look at fuel gas regulators in lieu of the acetylene regulators, so you know that when you have the demand that you're properly equipped for it. So again, those orifice differences in the two regulators allow for the viscosity difference between the fuels to give you the fuel that you need, especially in operating with a heavy heating head. We find that on the soldering side, which I don't think there's going to be much of that in this for you guys, but primarily in the cutting, you're just going to find a much cleaner cut. Again, looking at the safety factors, most importantly the safety factors. But, you know, guys, this is not something that's new to the industry, but what we want everybody to understand that as far as Praxair and Starflame C, this is a huge opportunity at cost savings, a much safer product, cleaner to work with, more user-friendly, and I just believe that that we're being somewhat forced maybe by the carbide situation. The Kentucky plant provided 72% of the carbide for acetylene manufacturing in the U.S. This is a huge problem. It's definitely time that everyone is really looking diligently at what that replacement is going to be, because it's absolutely going to be the fuel gas for the future for many of your facilities. And
well, hey, Raymond, we've got our first question here, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Absolutely.
I'm going to open up the line to Patrick. Patrick, are you there? Patrick, can you hear us? Well, I'm not hearing Patrick, so Patrick, if you can hear us, I'm going to leave you open. Otherwise, does anybody else have any questions? Because we're running out to our 20-minute deadline here, and I want to keep to our word to keep it short and sweet. So
please forward any of those questions to Dave, and I'm sure, Dave, you can get your information to him and then get with Bob or I, and we can help respond to any of those.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay.
Great comments, Raymond. We may be coerced into looking at alternative products right now because of the current situation, but it's definitely we definitely have a solution that's cost effective and better for the environment.
Well, Praxair for 2010 over 09 had right at a 70% increase in Starflame C sales. To me, guys, that is significant, and that is important to take into consideration that Praxair has been kind of the front runner in getting the customers out there today to understand what the product is and how it works, and the actual sales volumes speaks volumes as to what's actually happening in the industry. So again, not because I manufacture the product, not because it's just us talking today. Guys, this is just the proof in the pudding that we as a group and as a society have to step up and just do things smarter, better.
Well, I want to take a moment and just thank both of you guys for joining us today. I want to thank you guys for Praxair for bringing this to our attention, and we look forward to having these kind of dialogues more often. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait a second. Looks like we got somebody is raising their hand here. I am going to open it up to Mr. Matt Chapman. Matt, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to thank those gentlemen for their presentation, and I'm sure as this problem sort of finds its way into the shops of fabricators, you'll see a lot more interest, and you'll see people scrambling for questions. So I want you to know that we'll continue pressing this issue with our members and for those who will listen, so that when they do eventually encounter this problem, the solution will be there in front of them. But I just want to thank Dave Lesway and the gentleman from Praxair for their presentation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. And
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Okay, with that, we're going to end the call for, oh, wait a second. I've got another, just as I think. Okay, that was Patrick just letting me know that he got his question answered by his local Praxair distributor. So that's perfect. That's the answer we want to hear. So,
just love it when a plan comes together. Thanks so much, guys, for this opportunity. And please, Dave, and all those that are on the call with us, from myself, Raymond Davis, and Bob Jones, which couldn't be with us this morning, we're here to support. Just please keep the calls and the questions coming, and we'll be there to support you.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.